Hey, thank you so much for watching. Today's video is about a healthy debate on what is dating. Sweetie and I have been rolling back and forth between on this issue because we have a very, very different concepts of what dating means. And of course I'm right now. Anyway, so we want to talk about that today. And so I know that you've had some experience, obviously, for when you were a facilitator for your dating, divorce care class. So I know this issue would come up. So for you, what does dating mean? Or what is your definition of dating?
When a man and a woman meet for an occasion or an event. And an occasion can be dinner or anything else, or an event can be a birthday or a gathering for, let's say, it's some sort of church gathering or something like that. But
Okay.
that's what it is.
Okay.
Today.
Okay. And so with how everything's been changing as far as, the how marriage is defined and all that stuff. So you're saying it's still between a man and a woman?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my definition of it, because
Okay.
I don't think I don't date men.
Okay. Okay. All right. And so for me, my issue is you have to look what do the people intend? The two people who are meeting up, why are they meeting up? What do they intend to do? And so for Sweetie, that that doesn't come into play, but for me, that makes all the difference.
But it's not a romantic date when I'm talking about. If you're just meeting, it's just a date. So there's a different qualification. I think you have romantic dates, ones that might flourish into a relationship, a dating relationship. But you can go on a date with a friend, a coworker. I'm on a date. But it's not a romantic date. It's just a date to go fishing, or a date to go out for dinner, or a date to just talk about the kids.
Okay, but when you use the word date, if you're going to start to expand it to non-romantic situations, then that's how you get into every kind of trouble. Because, if you say, well, I met my coworker for a date, the talk around the water cooler, you can get yourself into every kind of trouble. And I think that's a big part of the problem with, how men and women kind of look at or use that word dating. And for me, when I use that word dating or having a date, it's always, for me, when people have an intention of meeting someone with an idea of forming a romantic relationship.
Okay, but
that's mine. So when you start to throw that word around and you start to use it in a work context or in a friendship context, even for me, even for the same sex, because my definition of dating is again a man and a woman also, but for me it's romantic intent.
Well, let's say you don't use the word date, and you just say, hey, you tell a coworker, I took Mary out last night for dinner, and we just sat and talked. Now, they're not going to know that it's a date, and you're not going to use the word date. You just said that, but they're going to think you're dating, right?
Not necessarily.
So,
not necessarily.
Well,
I mean, we use certain words for certain purposes, and so for me, using the word date always has a romantic undertone. For me, it always does, because again, then you start to create all types of confusion. Because if you're saying we've just met up and had dinner, then for me that implies that there's no intent to try to see if this person's right to formulate a romantic relationship.
Okay.
And I think maybe for men, maybe you look at it differently, because you're the ones who always ask. And so maybe, I don't know if it's you guys just want this hedge to say, yes, she accepted me, or she accepted my invitation, or I wasn't rejected, or whatever. I don't know if that plays into it, and that's why you guys
No.
tend to use a broader definition of date, because it doesn't,
No, I took mine out of the Webster's dictionary. But
yeah,
But I
you took one facet of it, but go ahead.
okay,
I don't think one definition
But
really is more important than the other.
the group I was part of for a long time, they said one of the first things you need to do when you go out with someone is you need to define the relationship. And that is a very important part. At some point you have to look around and look at the other person across the table and you say, let's define a relationship. Is it just friendship? Is it just a fun thing to do this weekend but not do it again? Is our relationship going to be growing? Do you see it maybe someday growing into a romantic relationship? And so we were very big on defining your relationship, because when you're with another single person, you may think it's platonic or non-romantic, while the other person is thinking it is a romantic or non-romantic. So you have to define that, and it's when you just say that word, the general word date. Well, date means, let's say you're doing a date at work. I mean, you might make a date with somebody at work to say, okay, I'm going to go out and do some business talk with you. Okay, it's a date. I'll meet you there. But that's why the general term date is too general. And you need to define your relationship. I think the word date is used wrong. I think you need to define the relationship.
Okay.
DTR. We used to call it DTR.
And I think that's an excellent thing to do. But in reality, how many people actually do that who haven't taken your class or a similar class that teaches that? Because I don't know if every divorce care class teaches that.
I don't know. No, we used to teach it in the singles group too.
Okay, well,
The singles group is where it should be taught, and everybody now, you should know this. It takes some guts sometimes in a relationship to say, I'd like to define a relationship.
yeah,
Because sometimes you would like a romantic one, and you might hear them say, I don't intend to ever have a romantic relationship with you, which would be hurtful. So you have to be ready to hear those words, that it might not go anywhere.
and I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
Being real clear and eliminating any type of confusion is a win-win. And it may be uncomfortable, but it's absolutely a win-win. And I agree with you, but I just don't think a whole lot of people do that. So, using certain words, I think, helps to eliminate any type of any type of confusion that might come up now or later. But yeah, absolutely, and earlier the better. Absolutely, as far as defining the relationship, I think that's so important. But
there are people who will date for some time and they're thinking it's going to be a romantic one, and then later find out that it's not. And now you've invested time and your life into somebody that you could have just as simply, if you'd done defining the relationship up front, you would have eliminated that problem right away.
yeah,
People get hurt when you don't define a relationship.
yes, that's true.
And it's a big one, because people don't want to hurt you necessarily. They just want to have a good time, or just because they're in a relationship, they need to have someone to listen to them. So there's a lot of reasons to have a relationship with somebody else.
There's a lot of reasons to invest time. That's true. Not necessarily romantic, because everybody wants to feel validated. Everybody wants to feel, acknowledged and feel like they're important and that they matter. But that again isn't necessarily always in a romantic context. So you're right. But I still think I'm right.
I still think I'm right.
But with your definition, you always have to have that defining the relationship go hand in hand, and have to do that early.
But I think when you're you're together alone, on one of these events, you're going to call it a date. one of these events, I think that is very important. And we used to teach it there. Define the relationship in the very first meeting. And it really means you try to sit across the table from them and look in their eyes and try to get them to define it. And actually you have to say these words too. Don't worry about my feelings. Please tell me the truth. Because sometimes people will tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And you have to let them know it's not important. My feelings aren't important at this point. I just need to know what your intentions are.
Yeah.
At this point. And sometimes those things change.
That's possible, but at least, like you said in the very beginning, no, go straight, please. At least in the very beginning, we have to go to Kimball. Sorry. I'm just giving Sweetie directions. All right. But yeah, at least in the very beginning, at least be very honest about your feelings. If they change, then be honest about that too.
Always be honest.
Yeah, but again, usually how often does that happen though? When feelings change, yeah.
Oh, I've definitely had a change, without a doubt. My intentions to date somebody was very, very adamant. I was not gonna date this woman romantically. And after about 6 months, we decided we were gonna date. It was a relationship for 3.5 years. So no, I can see definitely. It does change sometimes.
It can, but again, how often did that only happen once in your life? You know, so that's what I mean.
Right. It doesn't happen all that often.
I mean, I think that it made it a big impression on your heart.
Sure.
Because you invested time. Yes, right here, sweetie. You invested time in that person, and I think that's important. But again, I don't think it. If that happens once in a person's lifetime, that the situation changes. I just don't think it's that often. So that's just me. I haven't done any scientific polls. I'm just simply saying. But anyway, I think this was a good debate. I hope you find this helpful. Leave comments in the comment section, please. Because
and certainly don't hesitate to tell her how wrong she is.
That's right. Yeah. And if you want to lodge a vote, if you want to think that my definition is a little bit closer than what you think the word dating should be used, or a little bit broader the way Sweetie does, let us know what you think. And let us know if you had a situation, and you don't have to name names, you just let us know if you had a situation where your feelings change, whether it started out platonic and end up being a romantic relationship, and maybe vice versa. It started out romantic and ended up being a good friendship, or ended up being a friendship. So thank you so much for watching. Always subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you know every time a new video is uploaded, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.